What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be diving into the Druid class in Mists of Pandaria. Now, this is not an in-depth guide. This is more of a general overview, basically everything changing from Cataclysm going into MOP to help you decide if maybe the Druid class is for you. So I've written down a shitload of bullet points and things to talk about, and that's what we're going to be diving into today. So let me pull that over real quick. I'm going to pull it up in front of my screen. Here we go. Okay, so if you're thinking about playing a Druid in MOP, there's some things that you probably should know. Right now, Druids in WoW are the only class right now with 4 full roles. You can tank, you can heal, you can melee DPS, and you can range DPS. Now in MOP, the class was majorly overhauled, got some new systems. So in this video, we're going to break down all that stuff. Basically, the changes coming from Cata to MOP. We're going to explain every spec, how it performs in PvE and PvP, talents, utility, performance, and, ultimately answer the question of, should you play Druid in Mists of Pandaria if you're interested in it? So for section 1, let's go over the changes coming from Cataclysm to MOP, right? We have the new talent system in Cata, so you got to remember that, right? We have the 1 of 3 choices every 15 levels. Gone are the days of, putting in 50 different talent points. So you got a lot of utility, a lot of flexibility, but these talents are not role defining. They're basically just for utility and flexibility within your specs. So another change coming from Cata to MOP is that Druids got Symbiosis, which is a new spell that came in Mists of Pandaria, and the spell basically allows you to give and get a spell from another class. Like, for example, you can take an Ice Block from a Mage or Deterrence from a Hunter. So there's really cool combinations and things you can do with Symbiosis, so I'm sure you're going to be looking forward to that. I know most Druid players are, right? You definitely get a little bit clearer spec identity in MOP. So your Guardian split from Feral, so they're 2 different ways that you would play Druid. Instead of just being like one Feral spec, you're going to have your Guardian spec or your Feral spec. You're going to have Balance, Resto, and Feral definitely feels a little bit more distinct of a DPS spec. We have Wild Mushrooms, which are useful for Resto and Balance. We have new mechanics for AoE healing or DPS, right? So diving into the first spec, we're going to talk about Feral Cat melee DPS Druids, right? This is an energy-based combo point bleed spec, very similar to Rogues, but a little bit more heavily focused on bleeds, right? You're going to be snapshotting and doing a lot of bleed management, which can give you a pretty high skill cap. So if that's something you're interested in, Feral Druid might be for you. Some of your main abilities are going to be Savage Roar, Rip, Rake, Ferocious Bite, and the MOP changes here give you a smoother energy regeneration, improved Berserk, and you get Incarnation for your burst window. Now, when you pop Incarnation, you're going to be bursting, doing shitloads of damage. You get Predatory Swiftness, which equals instant heals while you're doing Feral DPS. Now for PvE, Cat Druids are pretty strong single target damage. They have decent off healing, and they obviously have the stealth mechanic, which gives them a bit of utility, and they bring all the other utility to the table that most Druids do, right? For PvP, you have obviously stealth, CC, off healing, and Cyclone. They're absolutely deadly in 1v1 scenarios and very, very strong in 2s and 3s. Now moving on to the Guardian, or the tank Feral Druid. This is now a standalone spec. It's no longer just a Feral Bear. So you have an active mitigation focus, which Savage Defense and Frenzied Regen. You have great AoE threat, cleave tanking, all that stuff is really, really easy for Guardian Druids. And the changes we're getting here in MOP give you a unique toolkit that's not just a recycled cat and bear form. You get Mangle, you get Thrash, you get Maul. Those are part of your core rotation as a Guardian Druid, and it synergizes with Vengeance scaling. So in terms of PvE, they have strong survival tools and self-heals. They're pretty easy to gear. They're just agility leather gear. They're a great dungeon tank and a solid main tank in Rage, which is great to see for our Guardian Druid. So if you're someone who liked to play a Druid tank back in the day, and maybe it's been a long time and you haven't done it and you're interested in it, this would be a really good time to do it. Tanking in Mists of Pandaria is supposed to be a lot of fun. I haven't personally done much of it, but from what I hear, it's one of the most fun things in MOP. Playing a tank just feels really, really good. As for Guardian Druids in PvP, not really much of a thing. I guess they can be kind of annoying to fight in Battlegrounds, but that's about it. I wouldn't really suggest playing Guardian Druid in PvP. But now let's talk about balance, right? This is the ranged DPS spec. You're going to have your eclipse system. You have your lunar versus solar phases. You have dots. You have burst with star surge, and you have AoE mushrooms. The burst cooldown is celestial alignment, and the changes you're getting in Mists of Pandaria are a streamlined eclipse phasing. So it's a little bit smoother to track coming from before. You have astral communion to control your eclipse, and star surge is way more impactful. In PvE, they are great for adds, movement-heavy fights. They're solid raid utility, bringing Innervate and off-heals. And in PvP, they have Root, Beam, Cyclone, and all of that stuff combined together makes them a pretty deadly class to deal with, right? You have Root, Beam, and Cyclone. That's three major CCs that Druids bring to the table as balance, right? They have incredibly high burst, strong mobility, and you can kind of customize this a lot with how you're playing via that new talent system, right? Talking about Resto Druids, we're going to jump into that. Resto Druids are a hot-based healer, right? Heal over time. Their main abilities are things like Rejuvenation, Life Bloom, Wild Growth, and their mastery equals more healing when mixing direct plus hot damage. So for the changes in MOP, we have Swift Mend is no longer consuming your hots, right? So it's just a burst heal. You have Mushrooms. They're a new AoE healing utility, which back in the day in original Mists of Pandaria, I actually did play Resto Druid, and the mushrooms were my favorite part about that. They're a little bit more mobile, and they have better burst healing windows now. So for PvE, they're a top tier raid healer. They're strong for both 5-mans and progression raiding. So if you're thinking about playing a Resto Druid, this is a great time to do it. They're incredible in pretty much every aspect of the game. PvP, PvE, dungeons, raiding, whatever it is, Resto Druid is going to fit in there pretty well. For PvP, they're extremely tanky and they're mobile, so that can make them a little bit tricky to deal with. They're definitely a little higher skill cap than most other classes, but when learned, how to play correctly, you can be absolutely deadly as a Resto Druid in arenas. You bring Clone to the table, Bear Form, Roots. You're just extremely slippery, and people have a really hard time locking you down. So let's give a little overview of some of your talents, right? You have Displacer Beast, which is basically an instant blink, giving you insane mobility. You have Heart of the Wild, which is an off-roll power window. For example, Resto Druids can DPS and Boomkins can tank and vice versa. You have Incarnation, which boosts whatever form you're in. Tree, Big Cat form, Boomkin, whatever it is. And your CC tier is Typhoon, Ursol's Vortex, Mighty Bash. They all have some sort of a niche value to them, so you'll have to play around with them and figure out which one works for you. For my next section here, I have utility, hybrid power, and forms, right? You bring Rebirth to the table, which is a battle res. You bring Stampeding Roar, which is a movement raid-wide buff. You bring Travel Form, which is instant cast indoors and outdoors. You bring Bear Form, which is a great emergency defense in all specs. Resto and Balance can still go Bear or Cat for clutch plays if you absolutely need to. And one of the best off-healing hybrid classes in the game is Druids. You're looking at them. Absolutely one of the best off-healing hybrid classes. So to answer the question, should you play Druid in MOP Classic, right? The pros are that you have insane flexibility. You have 4 specs, four different roles. You're strong in every type of content. You have insane off-healing and utility that's pretty much unmatched by any other class in the game. You have top-tier mobility and survivability. Now, dumping into the cons here, though. Feral and Balance are kind of hard to master. This is what I was saying before about them being a pretty high skill cap, to learn how to play well. But if you can, they do great. So I'm going to list that here as one of the cons. Feral and Balance are a little bit hard to master. Some specs can fall behind in further tuning down the line in the expansion. And they are the jack of all trades and not always number one in whatever role it is that they're playing. But keep in mind that if you learn how to play your class, most of the time, unless you're playing with the top 1% of players all the time, your skill, at this point in WoW, in Classic WoW, Progression WoW, can kind of trump most things unless your class is just nerfed into the ground, which Druids are not. So if you want to be a flexible all-around type of player, if you want a high skill ceiling and you want to be able to make clutch plays, then the Druid might actually be for you. Or, maybe you just love Druids, you love their lore, and this has been the class that you always play. This is basically a good overview of what you're getting in MOP and where you fit in with every role. So I'm not a pro at MOP Classic. I've been very transparent with you guys, but I did go through and kind of research and make lists for every single class, what's changing from kata to MOP, how they fit into PvE, PvP. So if I made a mistake here, please forgive me. I'm not a MOP Classic guru, you know what I mean? I'm going to be playing it for the second time in my life right now. I have not played any private servers or anything like that. This is all coming off of research from the internet, you know, present and past stuff. So again, if I made a mistake, I apologize. I'm just trying to give you guys some content because we're all excited for MOP, and I feel like I actually just wanted to be here right now. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and, you know, share it with someone who may be thinking about playing a Druid in MOP Classic. Subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. And we're streaming on Twitch and Kick nowadays. Both are just Hammer Dance. I'll post links down below. Kick has way less ads if you want to watch on there, but on Twitch I do stream in 2K. So both have their pros and cons there. I'll post links to the either, you know, down below. Follow me on whatever one you want. If you want to come hang out, we stream Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes I take a night or two off during the week, depending on what we're doing. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.